Okay, so this is part 3 of the hit attempt number 4. This is probably the last of the attempts. Or I may do more. I don't know. It just depends if I think they're. They're all relative and important and critical and all that stuff. It's just that some of them I don't really think I should. At least, I don't mind putting anything on the record, but just in case certain people might not really stomach things too well. I'd rather leave some of that out for now, just for now. Anyway, so here I am at the front of this convenience store. All the parking spaces had been filled. This is by all the people that had when you hear all these vehicles start up, man, it's it's ridiculous. And they follow you down the hill to this convenience store. So all the spaces in front of the store, around the gas pumps, same complex, and then going across the street because there's no spaces left in whichever direction, but the closest spaces that is adjacent to the street, which is adjacent to where you are. It was nuts, and this is where the ultimate, where that night would ultimately culminate in at least this particular attempt. And I had actually gone into this particular store and said, and this lady that was working in there, she was very sweet. And bless her heart, I felt so sorry for her because I had no choice but to tell her what was happening, and because I had to borrow her phone a couple of times. And believe it or not, after everything that I had gone through up to this point, believe it or not, one of those calls that I had made from this lady's, store phone, which I had to actually go up to the register and, just off to the side of it so I wouldn't be in anybody's way. And it was a landline, but one of the calls I actually made was to one of my family members. Not my immediate family, but just to say, this is what's going on right now. I'm so sorry to call you out of the blue and to bother you, but I just wanted to see if hang on. I just wanted to see if you wouldn't mind telling my family that I love them, because they kind of have me cornered here, And the lady couldn't really believe what she was hearing, and I couldn't believe what I was saying. But it was very clear. They were sending one, and then two, and then one, and then two, or then one, and then none. They'd go out, and then one more would come in. They'd go out, and another one or two would come in. And, it was very obvious they had been, well, maybe not all of them, but most of them had been briefed on what to try to do, and which I saw right away. And like I said, I don't want to get into this too deep right now, but it's obvious what they were ultimately trying to do. And the only thing I could do, again, was just to try to remain as public and as in view as possible. And then you have to make a call like that. And I was thanking that family member for everything they'd done for me. I mean, literally, this was, and I was ready to just face it already because, they had, literally just destroyed everything else I had anyway. So I figured, well, what, I guess whatever, this is, I guess this is, what else would you expect, right? But I noticed there was one or two particular individuals that were getting instructions outside. And finally, that one that seemed to be getting the most instructions, and again, I was on and off the phone at this point, and I noticed I finally had to, after I made that call to my one of my family members, I made another call somewhere. I can't recall at this point. I just remember I made like 3, but the third one was to 911, and it was just to say, look, I don't know what's going on here. But, these idiots have been freaking, forgive my language, chasing me all over the creation here, and they obviously hold some kind of ranking and power because they were, able to control or have access to the 911 calls and able to affect them and whatever, like they had done on the previous nights or whatever. But I said, look, I don't know what's going on. Can you please send somebody out? So at that point, now this is where I really started to notice something change, and it was the pace. After it was known, and they know because they were on, I'm sure they had to be listening to what I was saying. However they were, there's a few ways you can do that, but however they were doing it. Because after I finished the 911 call, I noticed this time, actually, I'm sorry, I had to end up calling them just like one of the other nights. I had to call them twice because that call seemed to be intercepted, and I called it, and I just like play-by-play, like a sportscaster, I called it just like I saw it. I said, look, there's this group of gang member or, clandestine governmental entities or whatever. I said, I don't know, exactly who these blankety blanks are, but it's obvious they're really trying to. I just called it like I saw it. They've obviously brought some kind of major personnel down here. And, I don't know what the hell they want. And, nobody's will say anything. They just want to, do harm. So I said, I don't know what. It's stupid. It's like ludicrous. It's like something, of course, as they want it. Like something out of the Twilight Zone. So I noticed that the 911 response was taking a long time, like a lot longer than it normally takes. And what as I had learned later, apparently was either stalled or intercepted and stalled, or the message stalled on its conveyance to the particular whichever unit that was to respond, because they were taking a long time. And during this time, and this is the part where it got very different, the pace of those, one would come in, they'd go out. Two would come in, they'd go out. And then another one would come in and they'd go out. All of that sped up like 3-fold at least. Maybe 4, but it was like they just started speeding it up. They wanted it done before whoever got there, or as long as they could stall the whoever it was. So anyway, one of the last tries that because what I had done eventually had to do was I eventually did something for my own sake. And I'm not going to share at this point anyway what that was, but luckily, and again, it seemed to somehow, well, being, you know, well, we'll just leave it at that. It just, you know, it seemed to be like the right thing at the moment, and I guess apparently to do, you know, as it seems. But one of the last people, in fact, that last individual that I saw come in was one of the ones, actually was the one that was getting the most instruction. This is, I believe, was his second time in there after sitting out there, parked out there, conversating with all the other, who the hell ever it was. And I know exactly who it was. But he had come in and there was a look of complete urgency on his face. He was literally scared to death. I mean, you know, literally. Like, this is it. No more coming out. It's like he'd been told, this is the last chance, or one of the last chances we're going to get, at least for tonight. And I think they knew that. And like it's almost like he was told, so that being said, don't screw it up. No more coming out here until it's done. Get in there and get it done. So he had come in, a look of complete urgency, but complete fear. Like he didn't really want to do what he was doing, but he knew he had to. Because why? Because of the people, you know, doing what? Using that tool of rule that I spoke about in the earlier segments. I think some people know it as money. That's what it does. And if they wanted that, he was going to have literally killed an individual, an innocent person, an innocent individual, live human being, before he exited that store. That's the look that was on his face. And who knows, he's probably done it before, but there was a good chance that he hadn't, due to the look on his face, but he was going to have walked out of that store. That's what the look was. Maybe like somebody who is getting ready to do it for their very first time, but all the rest of the time, of course, he seemed like, you know, badass, cocky as hell, everything, but the expression was completely different, in other words. While he seemed desperate and everything, his face completely different. He went right to the ATM machine, which was just inside the door. One of those portable ones, you know, and proceeded to do that, got his whatever he was drawing out from there, and then turned back around. So, you know, literally he could see toward the register and kind of where I was and stuff. Now, for certain purposes, I am going to try to navigate through this very carefully. That is when I ended up doing what I did. And, well, needless to say, and through several more, mind you, you know, I'm here talking to you, so just surmise, you know, what you might think of would have happened or had happened, but it's what happened after that in the parking lot that just shocked me, and I'll tell you about that here right quick, and that should be the last part in part 4. I'll be right back with you.